Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try something kind of cool. We're piecing together the life of one man, Jonathan White. And get this, we're doing it using nothing but the faint paper trail he left behind more than 170 years ago.
So how do you even tell a story like that? I mean, a man who left no letters, no diary? Well, it all starts with just a single entry on an old family tree. Jonathan White, number 44 on an ancestor list. Just a name in an archive. So yeah, how do you find the person behind the name? Okay, let's dive in and see what we can find.
And you know, it's pretty amazing. But with just a handful of official records, we're talking birth certificates, death records, land deeds, that kind of stuff, we can actually sketch out his entire life. Each one of these dates you see here, it's like a clue, a little pin on the map of his journey, from his birth in Rhode Island all the way to his death in Connecticut. All right, so the first real clue we find about his story comes when Jonathan is just 9 years old. His father dies. And that brings us to this legal thing from back then called guardianship. Basically, it's just a legal arrangement where a court appoints someone to look after a minor. And the record shows his mom, Sybil, became his legal guardian. Now you might think, oh, okay, that's just a formality. But for us, this is huge. It really marks the start of a life that was going to be all about self-reliance.
16. What's so special about that number? Well, that's how old Jonathan White was when he started buying land. I mean, think about that. At 16. An age when most guys were still just farmhands or learning a trade, Jonathan was already out there making moves, building a future for himself.
And you know, he wasn't just buying up random plots of land. If you look at these old deeds, you see a really clear pattern. He's buying properties straight from his own family, from his sister Elizabeth, then more from his brother Benjamin, and then he goes in with his brother to buy land from their other sister Rhoda. He's being super methodical here, pulling together the family land, and really, he's building a solid foundation for the life he's about to start with his new wife, Miranda Wade.
So the paper trail keeps going, and next up are the census records. Now I know, census records can seem kind of boring, right? Just a list of names and numbers. But look, when you put them side by side like this, they tell this incredible story of a huge life change. In 1830, he's in his home state, Rhode Island, with a couple young sons. Fast forward 10 years to 1840, and boom, he's moved the whole family to Connecticut, and now they've got a daughter, too. This wasn't just a move down the road. This was a major uprooting.
And sure enough, by 1839, other records confirm it. He'd sold off his land back in Rhode Island and put down brand new roots. He set up his family on this piece of land called Chestnut Hill in East Killingly, Connecticut, working as a farmer. He'd done it. He had successfully transplanted not just his family, but his ambitions too.
And then, just like that, the paper trail takes this sharp, totally unexpected turn. At just 45 years old, right at the peak of the life he'd built from absolutely nothing, Jonathan White dies. The official record says the cause was lung fever, which was most likely what we'd call pneumonia today. All that work, all that ambition, and it just ends.
But he gets one last say. He leaves behind this one final, really powerful document, his will, and it was written on April 18th, literally one day before he died. The opening lines are just, wow. They give you a window right into his head. He's weak and debilitated in body. He knows he's dying. He says he's in view of approaching dissolution, but his mind is still short. He's focused on getting his affairs in order.
So what's on his mind? First things first, his wife, Miranda. He gives her what's called a life estate for all his land in Connecticut. That means she has the right to live there and use the farm for the rest of her life. He also gives her all the household furniture to dispose of as she sees fit. You can tell his absolute #1 priority was making sure she was going to be secure.
Next, he thinks about his sons, Henry and Albert. They get his land back in Rhode Island right away. But the main farm, the one in Connecticut, they don't get that until after their mother passes away. Again, you can just see that careful, deliberate planning. The boys will get their inheritance, sure, but not at their mother's expense. She comes first.
And he absolutely did not forget his teenage daughter, Harriet. He makes this really specific, almost tender provision just for her. Her brothers are legally required to pay her $200
which was a lot of money back then, and he makes it clear that she gets to live and board with her mother until she is married free of expense. He's making sure she's got a roof over her head, that she's safe, and that she has a little nest egg to start her own life.
And then, right at the very end of the document, we find what might be the most humanizing detail in this entire story. After a lifetime of buying and selling land, of building this whole estate, he signs his will, his final testament, with a simple X, his mark. The man who'd acquired so much property likely couldn't even write his own name. It's just incredible.
So, what was it all worth, in dollars and cents? The official inventory of his estate came to $1,227.55. Now, for a farmer in 1850, that wasn't like mega rich, but it was a comfortable, hard-won success. That number right there, that's the tangible result of a lifetime of work.
Just a couple of months later, in June 1850, the census taker arrives at the farm on Chestnut Hill. And this is the family he finds. A household without its leader. There's his widow, Miranda, now 46, and two of their children still at home, Albert and Harriet. The genealogical source we're using for this explainer actually calls this sad little snapshot a remnant of the family. It's pretty heartbreaking.
He might have ended his life in Connecticut, the place he chose to build his future. But for his final journey, he went back home. Jonathan White was buried in the family plot back in Gloucester, Rhode Island, laid to rest in the very same soil where he was born. His journey, quite literally, had come full circle.
So what this all really shows us is that a life isn't just lost to time if the records are there. The whole process is right here. You uncover a name, right? That's your first thread. Then you follow that paper trail, the deeds, the census data, all of it. And then, and this is the most important part, you have to listen to the story that data is trying to tell you. If you do that, you can piece together a pretty compelling picture of a real person even from centuries ago.
Jonathan White didn't leave a diary. He didn't leave any letters or a portrait. His legacy is the story that these simple official documents let us tell. It's a story of ambition, of family, and of looking ahead. And it kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, right? What seemingly ordinary data, what digital paper trail are we leaving behind? And what story will it tell about us?